good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab show. What an NCAA tournament this year. Really full of ups and downs. We saw some Cinderellas run deep. But shout out to the Kansas Jayhawks. Shout out to Bill Self, the head coach. He's a two-time national champion. Back in 2008, he won his first championship. And then this year in 2022, I mean, it was a great run by Kansas. And really, after I saw Kansas play Miami, I was like, man, dude, I think Kansas could really run it all the way. They just played sound. Their big mans play well. Shout out to McCormick. I just think the X factor in the championship game was their guard play for Kansas. Yes, we saw the largest comeback in history, down 15 points at halftime in championship game. This was amazing. But I even thought then, I was like, this is a game of runs. So 15 points really isn't that much as we think of the bigger picture. Yes, there was only 20 minutes left. I get all that, but I just think the X factor was the guard play in Remy Martin for the Kansas Jayhawks. He hit some huge shot late game, hit some big threes in the corner. I think he hit 2 or 3 in that right corner, and I was like, man, dude, that's what they needed. That's what Kansas needed. Somebody to come out, somebody to score. And Remy Martin, throughout the season, he wasn't known for, I'm just going to score, 20, 30 a game. No, he was more of a facilitator, drive to the basket, dish out, hit some threes when he needs to, but he came up super big in this championship game, and I thought, man, North Carolina, they were a little banged up, and I thought North Carolina coming into the second half, the way they closed out the first half, it made sense why so many people was live betting and said, you know what, North Carolina's got this game in the bag, I'm going NC all the way, and I was thinking, hey, pump the brakes here, this is a game of runs, and I just think when Kansas came out in the second half, hitting those threes, hitting big shots, and we saw, so many players on Kansas stepped up when they needed to. Christian Brown, he stepped up. We just saw so much and so many players step up for Kansas where it's like, what's going to happen? We saw some big plays, but I think for North Carolina, what really hurt them was they didn't really get a lot of second chance opportunities in the second half. We saw that in the first half where it was like, yeah, North Carolina's getting so many points off second chances, off offensive rebounds, and it was just the discipline for Kansas. I mean, you learn that in the first time you try out basketball, learn how to box out your opponent. I mean, it's not that hard, and Kansas was giving up way too many points in the first half, and it made sense why they were kind of running away with it. Then we saw Kansas catch up, and I just want to applaud Bill Self, the head coach for Kansas. I think that he outcoached them. He did, absolutely. I mean, down by 15, his team never panicked. They didn't hit the panic button coming out in the second half. They came out like the score was 0-0, and they just went balls to the wall and went all the way. In Kansas, it's iconic. I mean, obviously my pick was wrong all year. I picked Duke. Shout out to Coach K. What a career, off into the sunset, 5-time national championship. As a coach, I just think for Kansas right now, dude, this is their 4th national title in team history. This is big. Obviously, they're behind, Indiana University, but I just think for Kansas, man, they're always a powerhouse team. I mean, Bill Self, he goes to Final Four after Final Four. We saw in 2020 what happened, the disappointment for Kansas, but, this was a story we saw before. And was it the same story that we're going to see for Kansas where it's like, oh, Kansas is going to make it to the championship game, then they're going to choke it away and give the game away. And that's what it was. And I was thinking the whole time, I was like, no way, dude. Kansas is not out of this. Their big man was just ready to go. I just think for Kansas, it was just more of, hey, let's play our game that we've been playing all year. And that's what Kansas was, dude. It just showed you, who the better team was. And I get it, North Carolina made some big plays down the stretch. But, just the role player stepped up. Jalen Wilson for the Kansas Jayhawks. He stepped up with 15 points. Just the little things, man. It just keep going and going. David McCormick, probably one of their best athletes on Kansas. He stepped up as well with 15 points. It goes to show you, man, that they're ready to go, man. Ready to go. It's a big shot, big rebounds for Daniel. I think that's great. And then Agbaji, we saw Agbaji, the senior for Kansas. Born in Kansas City, Missouri, local. He had 12 points. He was 4 for 9 from the field, only 1 for 4 from 3. So I thought that they should have told him, and I think the second half adjustments was great for Bill Self, was to tell him, hey, go to the basket. We're settling for threes where we don't need to be. Now, obviously, Remy Martin, that's a different story. He hit those clutch threes late in the game where it was like, I think that was the X factor right there. And that's really sealed the deal. And we saw North Carolina, they were banged up coming into this game. Yeah, one of their key players was banged up, But I think for North Carolina, they were on it. RJ Davis, he had a great game. They got to the paint really whenever they wanted to, but I just think for North Carolina, what really hurt them was, their presence. Obviously, Brady for North Carolina, he looks like a junkyard dog, looks like a surfer, looks like he's a pothead, right? But he can ball. He can ball, fundamentally sound, can hit the shots when you need him to. He had a bad turnover late game, but I just think looking at the bigger picture, man, hey, they were ready to play, and I just think, both teams gave it their all. This was one of the best national championship games we've ever seen, dude. Down by 15, coming back in the second half, never giving up. Kansas taking the lead late game and never looking back. I think this was a great, great championship game, and I think it really fulfilled everybody who watched it. It really was. It was satisfying. It was great. And we saw the better team win. Kansas was the better team. That's why they were favorite, and that's why a lot of people should have went money line on Kansas. It makes sense, and just like I compared to the Super Bowl bet, a lot of people go money line on the Super Bowl bet, just like the national championship. Go money line Kansas. You can never go wrong. You really can't. So Kansas was my pick. Obviously, Duke was my original pick, but my bracket was busted. Duke was my only hope. It's really tough. This is March Madness. It's tough to decide who's going to win, who's going to beat who. It's rough, right? You just never know. But I love college basketball because, it's a sport where, we see the small schools really build up and be a big powerhouse school. Like St. Peter's beating Purdue. Like that, Purdue gets more TV time. Purdue gets better recruits. I just think, for St. Peter's, it was one of the things where it's just like, hey, this is our time now. We're going to hit the bigger shots than Purdue and all that. We seen the Cinderella. It's great. We saw a lot of upsets this year, which was amazing for college basketball. It really was. What do we expect? Do we expect Kansas to repeat for next year? Yes, they are getting some players back. Yes, they're one of their best athletes. He's a senior. He's gone. But I just think, hey, we cannot count them out. And I wouldn't even say that's a bad bet of getting Kansas to win it next year, to repeat. The last team to repeat was that Florida Gators team back in 06, 07, or even 07, 08 with Joakim Noah. Those guys, I mean, they were great. But, Bill Self, he does have an opportunity to repeat. I say that because he's a great coach. He's, great recruiting system in Kansas. So we can never count Kansas out. I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas this time next year is in the Final Four. I would not. They're just a powerhouse school, man. They get great recruits, top 10 recruits, year in and year out. That's what Kansas is. So, you guys can love them or hate them. But at the end of the day, this was a great, great championship game, dude. And do I feel empathy or sorry for North Carolina? No. They got national championships after national championships, so I'm not worried about North Carolina. Yes, they did recently lose to Villanova a couple years back with that game-winning 3. That was iconic. North Carolina's been in the big game the past, decade, but come up short, time after time. But I just think, for Kansas and Bill Self, this championship game, this was iconic, dude. This was one of the best we've ever seen, down by 15 at half and never giving up, where a lot of the big whale sports bettors were saying North Carolina at halftime, up by 15. I don't see them blowing a 15-point lead, but I always said it's a game of runs in college basketball. Not just college, in basketball in general. It's a game of runs. Can you go on a 16-0 run just like North Carolina did to close out that half? 16-0 run, up by 15. It's one of them off to the sunsets. North Carolina's going to win again, blah, blah, blah. No. Kansas came back, and I'm really excited. I'm happy for Bill Self. He's been with Kansas since 2003, 2 national championships, 2008 and this year. He was Coach of the Year 2009 and 2016. So Bill Self, we know what he can bring to the table. He can bring that championship mentality that, hey, we're not going to hit the panic button down by 15. We still have 20 minutes to play. We have plenty of time right now. So I bet in the locker room, they weren't hitting the panic button. They knew, hey, we're the better team here. We're not playing like it, though. We just gave up a 16-0 run going into the half. What are we going to do to correct ourselves? What adjustments do we need to do? And Bill Self made those adjustments with Kansas Jayhawks, and they turned it around, and it was a great performance by Kansas. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody that took Kansas in the whole tournament. Not just the championship game. I'm talking from day one, before the tournament started. A lot of, obviously, the fans of Kansas would have took them, but I'm talking about, people who aren't truly fans of the Kansas Jayhawks. Did you guys take them preseason? If you did, hey, shout out to you guys, for real. That was a heck of a pick. It's tough. It really is, but, like I said, Kansas won because of the guard play in the second half. And shout out to Remy Martin. I think he should have been, player of the game. Shout out to Remy Martin. What a playmaker. Great point guard, smart, hit the shots when he needed to. That's what you got to do as a point guard. You have to hit the big shots when your team needs it the most. When North Carolina's going on runs, Remy Martin, boom, hit another three. Boom, hit another three in the corner. Hit another big shot. Dish off to another assist. So, Remy Martin, X Factor, he's a transfer. I like this guy. I think, that was the difference, man. And shout out to the Kansas Jayhawks. What an NCAA tournament for March Madness, man. Even though my bracket was busted, this was one of the best championship games we have ever seen. Shout out to Kansas, North Carolina, maybe next year. It's the Clouded with Cab show. Let's go!